Hello, everybody. Let me try that again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my first thoughts about Dungeons and Dragons. So, let me explain to you. Let me actually give you a website's definition of what Dungeons and Dragons is. So, according to Wikipedia, Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy tabletop role-playing game. And basically, that was a terrible definition. That did not give it anything. So, if you've played games like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Fallout, those games, Final Fantasy, those are role-playing games. But what we're going to be focusing more on is Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, those ones. The Elder Scrolls. That is more like your typical Dungeons and Dragons. Now, there are homebrew games, which are basically games that are brewed at home, like you make them at home. Your own rule sets, your own worlds, your own characters, your own NPCs, your own quests. Homebrew games can be whatever they want to be, but I'm going to be focusing on like base set Dungeons and Dragons right now. Base set Dungeons and Dragons is basically take Skyrim, put it on steroids, and make it a tabletop role-playing game. So imagine, tabletop. It's like Monopoly, but it's not like Monopoly at all. It's a terrible analogy, as a matter of fact. And if you cannot tell, I may not be completely sober right now, but that's fine, because I am describing to you what it be. So, I have very limited experience with Dungeons and Dragons. As a matter of fact, I've only sat in and played maybe 5 sessions. And I wanted to give a novice's opinion on what Dungeons and Dragons is like, because most people on the internet who do Dungeons and Dragons videos are obviously veterans. They've been playing it their entire lives. They've been playing it for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Forever. They have a seasoned look, and not that that's bad in any way, shape, or form. That's actually very good, because it lets you know that Dungeons and Dragons isn't just a fad thing. It's not just like, oh, let's sit down and play this for 2 or 3 times, maybe a couple months, and then never play it again. It's something that people make a passion out of. They make money off of it. They make a living, a lifestyle. They spend money on it, and they enjoy it very much. So I might be getting off topic. I don't even know where this is going, because this is completely unscripted. I'm just rambling about Dungeons and Dragons. So here's my experiences with Dungeons and Dragons. So Dungeons and Dragons is basically a open world role-playing tabletop game where you can do whatever you want, and by whatever you want, I mean whatever you want, assuming you have a cooperative dungeon master, and a dungeon master is basically the god of your game. It's a real person, typically. I can't think of any circumstances where a dungeon master is an automated person or an artificial intelligence, but I'm sure we're within a couple years, maybe even a couple months, of an automated dungeon master or game master that could do that. But if you have a good dungeon master, you can do literally anything you want, and that is what makes this game so scary, so intimidating, and so difficult, because you can do whatever you want. Literally anything. Let me share some examples, as well as some experiences of mine. So let's say you're in a town. Let's call it town. So you're in a town, and you've just gotten a quest from a gnome, and they want you to go and clear out this dungeon and reclaim a family heirloom, perhaps a sword, perhaps a lute, perhaps a flute of some sorts. It's whatever you want it to be. But here's where the Dungeons and Dragons charm comes in. You can decide if you want to do that, or if you just want to kill that guy and go claim the loot for yourself. And who knows, maybe he's completely lying and he's the big bad evil guy. Maybe he's trying to get you guys killed. You don't know. You can do literally anything in this game. And as I said, since the Dungeon Master is typically a living, breathing human being, he has many twists and turns that are perhaps off script. If this is a homebrew game, if this is a module, or something like that, maybe there's not as much twists and turns that are completely unexpected if you've read through the book. That's why I personally prefer, like, you'd use a module as reference, and then you have your own homebrew behind it. That's what I prefer, and that's actually what I am going through right now. Like, my sessions that I am part of, it's like the Horde of the Dragon Queen or whatever it's called. It's that module, but it has a homebrew aspect to it. Like, the world is a homebrew or something like that. Some of the towns and NPCs are homebrewed. I don't really know what I'm talking about right now. But that's okay, because like I said, this is unscripted. So you can do whatever you want. Anything and everything. I mean, look, you can be a ranger, a barbarian, a cleric, whatever that guy is. You can be a gnome, a bard, a rogue. You could be an elf, a tiefling, a human, a fighter, anything you want. You can even, if your dungeon master is accepting enough, you can be any race and any class you want. You can make your own classes and your own races with their own advantages and disadvantages. So, let's go on to how this could be a detriment. The whole open world aspect, how it could be a detriment to your gameplay and people who maybe want to get into it. They don't realize that when you can do anything, it actually means anything. In the real world, yes, you can do anything, but there's a morality of what's right and what's wrong. You can't go out and commit crimes because you will face actual consequences in real life. Perhaps even losing your own life, maybe your freedom, maybe your family, maybe your friends. But in the Dungeons and Dragons world, obviously there's a bit of a disconnect there because it's not the real world. So you can do literally anything you want. You see this person, you can stab them, you can become best friends with them, you can become rivals, you could do anything that you want. That little homeless person over there, that little homeless half-elf bard, that could be the most powerful person in the world, but you don't know. Because anything and everything can happen in Dungeons and Dragons, and that's what is so scary, because anything can happen. You have so many options of what you can do that it seems condemning. It seems that you have no choice, that you should just go with what your dungeon master says, and if that is the case, then you have a bad dungeon master. Perhaps not necessarily a bad dungeon master, however, because of the paralyzing, not necessarily fear, but realization of, I can do literally anything that I want. Maybe the dungeon master wants to railroad you a bit because you have no idea what to do. Maybe he's like, oh, you should go to the tavern and talk to this guy because maybe he can help you. As opposed to just standing there and being like, what do I do? That is the mark of a good dungeon master. But a bad dungeon master would not let you adventure around. Go to a tavern if you wanted to, even though maybe he has notes written down that you go to an inn and you talk with this lowly wench, and she gives you a quest to reclaim her family's honor or something like that. They will understand if they are a good dungeon master. They will let you do as you please. Perhaps dropping hints about this, like you encounter an NPC and they're like, I heard that there was this wench at the inn who was crying, and then, which would make you perhaps want to check it out. But if you don't, that's okay. You can go to the blacksmith and get a new set of armor. You can go to the general goods store, get 50 feet of rope, a healing potion, some food, some water, that kind of stuff. That is what's so scary about Dungeons & Dragons. So let's bring in my own story. My character's name is Altern Selbro. He is a half-elf ranger, and he is really my first character that I've ever created that I will have extended experience with, hopefully. I've played a couple sessions in the past, but they were kind of throwaway sessions. I jumped in at the absolute middle of it, and we never really finished those sessions. We never finished that campaign, which is okay, because I had no experience whatsoever. So, let's talk about my current session. We're playing Horde of the Dragon Queen, if I remember the name correctly, and we started out being part of a caravan that was leading into a town of Greenset. And things went awry, of course, as they always do, because it's Dungeons & Dragons. It's a role-playing game. You're going to get ambushed. You're going to get attacked by wolves. This and that and this and that. So we got attacked by bandits. La-di-da-di-da. We attacked, and we let us get railroaded because we wanted to get into town because we were hired on a mission to get to Greenset. So we got to Greenset, and this is where the choice became overwhelming. So, in games like The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, I'm always a rogue, and that rubbed off on my character that I created, who's a ranger, who has additions in stealth and nature and animal handling and stuff like that. Because he grew up in the woods. But he knows how to be sneaky, of course, because you gotta hunt. So, I started acting like a rogue. There was this giant attack that had happened on the city of Greenset, and there were piles of dead bodies outside of the town. And it was nightfall, it was dusk, and I decided that I would help the guards move the bodies to the body pile, like the bodies that were strewn about the city. I had decided to help them, and this is when choice had a large impact on what I did, of course. I set one of the bodies down, and as the guards walked away, I fell to my knees and started fake crying, because I didn't know any of these people, but I wanted to act like I knew these people. And I started hugging one of the dead bodies, acting like it was a long-lost best friend who I had just finally met, and they had died in front of me. I was mourning them. I was so sad for their loss, even though this was an entire act that I just wanted. So I could pickpocket him, his dead body, and get any valuables he had. That's what I did. I was acting more like a rogue than a ranger because of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. I was always a rogue. I was pickpocketed and lockpicked and did all that stealth archer thing that everyone does in Elder Scrolls V. If they're a generic player, probably. They're either a murder hobo or a stealth archer. That's how it be. So I pickpocketed a dead body. Obviously I didn't get detected because it's a dead body, but a guard came up to me and patted me on the shoulder, saying that we all lost people today. So it turns out he was a baker. So I went to the bakery, and I noticed some guards near me, so I fell to my knees and started praying to the god of trickery. But when the guards came up to me, I claimed that I was praying to the god of death, asking why they took my best friend, like Bartol or something. I made up a name, and I had to roll persuasion, and I got a good score. I convinced them that this Bartol guy was an actual person. But I fell to my knees and I was praying, and I told him that I was praying here because he went to the bakery every day, and he always bought a loaf of bread, and he shared it with his family, but he finally ultimately died today when they were attacked by bandits. So they let me be, and I continued praying. I was praying to the goddess of thieves and trickery, or something along those lines. And I broke in there, and then I screwed everything up. I kept rolling low scores, I kept rolling like 3s or 6s. I broke the key that I used to get into the bakery. Basically, I wanted to pick up not tapestries. I wanted to pick up some bread and stuff like that for my party because we were kind of hungry. I wanted to give us a little treat for surviving this encounter. So I broke into a bakery because it was closed, and I had the key to it. I locked the door behind me and then proceeded to try to use the key in another situation and broke the key. Ultimately, I ended up panicking and throwing the cash register out of the window of the bakery and running away. But I was spotted by guards. I cut my hand and my leg open by the glass that was in the window. I was rather damaged, and I took damage, and I was caught. I was paralyzed. My hand was broken because I kept rolling low. I kept having bad persuasion because I forgot to put any. I didn't put any points into persuasion because I'm not a rogue. I'm a ranger. I want my animal handling to be up. I want my nature to be up. I want stuff like that to be up. My stealth, my acrobatics, my athletics. Those kind of things I want to be up. Not my persuasion because I'm not a rogue. So because of the illusion of choice, not the illusion, because of the option of choice, I was overwhelmed. And I did a default, and I went into a rogue, stealth archer, basically my average Skyrim character, thinking that it would work, not taking into fact that Dungeons and Dragons has randomness behind it. Dungeons and Dragons has chance behind it. Everything you do is connected to numbers. You roll a d20, which is a 20-sided dice for acrobatics, for stealth, for attacking, for sneaking, for anything you do. Basically, you roll a 20-sided die cube. Not cube. It's not a cube. It's like a dodecahedron or something. So that is what's so scary about Dungeons & Dragons. It's what turns away so many characters of so many people from playing Dungeons & Dragons because it is simply too expansive. There is too much to do in Dungeons & Dragons. This has been... Let's check how long this video has been. This has been an 18, perhaps 19-minute rant about Dungeons and Dragons. I will not edit this video at all. I'm just gonna straight up upload this. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more, as I will make new videos whenever I want. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, afternoon, evening, or night.